Hey, welcome to video number 14. This one is on rounding to the nearest whole number, or nearest 10, or nearest 100, or nearest 1,000. Keyword here is rounding. What does rounding mean? It means just making the number that you've been given easier to understand. All right, we're making it simpler. It's an approximation. Okay, it's not an exact thing anymore. Right? Once you've rounded something, it's not exact anymore. Now, the method for rounding to the nearest whole number is you would round the number up in the units column if the number after the decimal is 5 or more. Keep it the same if it's not. Okay? Here, like exemplar methods again. So to round to the nearest 10, you would round the number in the tens column up if the number in the units column is 5 or more. Keep it the same if it is not, etc., etc. Okay? So it's all about whether the number next to the thing that you want to round up is 5 or more. Okay, and it's easier to understand again through examples. Okay, this is just to kind of, underpin what it is that we're doing. So in number 1, we've got to round 345.23 to the nearest whole number. Okay, now this is a decimal number because it has numbers that appear after the decimal point. This is worth 300, this is worth 40, this is worth 5. This is worth 2/10, and this is worth 3/100ths. Okay, so it's good to understand place value, very good to understand place value when it comes to rounding numbers to any degree of accuracy. And we've got to round to the nearest whole number. So that would mean it's not decimal anymore. Therefore, it's not as accurate as it was, right? This is the most accurate it is at the moment. We're going to look at rounding to the nearest whole number by chopping it off here in between the 5 and the 2. All right, and the 2 is not 5 or more, so it just becomes 345. Okay. In part B, we would like to round to the nearest 10. All right, so let's look at the number in the tens column, and then we'll look at the number in the units column. Well, it is a 5. Okay, it is 5, so that's going to round that number up to a 5. All right, so that becomes 3/5. But then this number here can't just disappear, it has to become a 0, and then it's 0.00. We don't need the 0.00 because we're rounded to the nearest 10, so it's 350. Okay, and that kind of makes sense because 345.23 is closer to 350 than it is to 340. All right, so think about that after you've done the rounding just to see if it makes sense. And if we round to the nearest 100, we're looking at chopping it off here. Right, in between the 3 and the 4. That 4 is not 5 or more, so therefore that 3 stays as a 3. These numbers become zeros. 0.00 again we don't need to write, and therefore there's our answer. And yes, 345.23 is closer to 300 than it is to 400. Okay, and we have done the first rounding mission. And question 2, I'm going to do question 2 now. So Kanye earns $34,670 a year. What is this to the nearest $10? Okay, so let's see if we can change anything. To the nearest $10, right? We'll look in the tens column, that's a 7. In the units column, it's a 0. So nothing's going to change, and actually nothing at all is going to change. All right, so it actually is the answer that it already is. 34670. That's already rounded to the nearest 10, okay, or $10. So we can put the dollar symbol in there. And in part B, we've got to round to the nearest $1,000. So I'm going to put the dollar symbol in there already. And then I'm going to look in the thousands column. Well, that's the units, the tens, the hundreds, the thousands. So I'm going to chop it off in between the 4 and the 6. That's 6. It's going to round that 4 up to a 5. That becomes 3. 5, and then everything else becomes zeros. 0, 0, 0. So $35,000, which is more than he actually gets, but it's an approximation. It's a rounding. We've done a rounding. Okay. And then let's move me. I'm going to go over here, and we're going to look at question 3. Now the population, spelled incorrectly, population, of Portsmouth. Let's just have a little competition for spotting the grammatical and spelling errors in my videos. The population of Portsmouth, I've already given that one away, haven't I? population of Portsmouth, is 238,000 people to the nearest 1,000. State whether the following it's another mistake there on purpose, obviously. Statements could be true or not. All right. A, the actual population is 238,940. So if we were rounding this number, this is what we're going to have to do. We'd have to see if it would round to this. Okay, to the nearest 1,000. So let's go to the nearest 1,000. That 8 is going to turn into a 9. That would be 239,000. That is not the same as what we were given in the question. So therefore, that is false. Or not true. If you want to write not true, that would make sense as well. B, the actual population is, and let's round this one. So that's going to be 238,000. Because we're chopping it off here in between the 8 and the 1. That 1 doesn't do anything to the 8. Everything else becomes zeros. That is the same, so that it could be true. Okay. And then the actual population is, again, 238,001. So let's do that. 238. Chopping it off here. Right, doesn't change that 8 to a 9, so 0, 0, 0. That is the same as the number we were given. So that is also true as well. And I can't spell true, even though I've written it already. There we go. So you've got a wordy, more complicated problem where you've got to use a little bit of initiative. You've got one where you've got some words with a bit of money, a bit of context, and you've got ones where you just get numbers and you just have to round them off. I hope that helps. I hope you understand what I've spoken about in that video. Please do like if you've enjoyed it in some way or another. Subscribe to the channel, click the link in the description section to practice more and get the answers, and keep watching. All right, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.